The Horizon space station hung like a silent sentinel against the vast, inky blackness of space. Its white and silver panels gleamed under the distant starlight, a testament to human engineering and ambition. Inside the station's main diplomatic chamber, Dr. Emma Rodriguez stood perfectly still, her heart racing beneath a calm exterior. She had spent her entire career preparing for moments like this. As the lead Sinolinguist of the Global Diplomatic Corps, Emma knew that first contact could go catastrophically wrong, with just a single misunderstood word or gesture. Her dark brown eyes scanned the room, taking in every detail of the alien delegation that had just arrived. The Zoraki were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered before. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with bodies that seemed to shimmer between solid and translucent. Their skin, if it could be called skin, appeared to be a complex network of iridescent membranes that shifted colors with each movement. 3 elongated arms extended from their torso, each ending in what looked like a combination of a hand and a sensory organ. Their lead diplomat, Krila, stepped forward. The movement was both fluid and mechanical, like a perfectly programmed machine trying to mimic organic motion. A series of clicks and melodic tones erupted from what Emma assumed was their communication device. "Translator online," whispered the AI assistant in Emma's earpiece, initializing communication protocol. The room fell silent. The human representatives, a mix of diplomats, scientists, and military personnel, held their collective breath. Years of preparation, decades of scanning the cosmos, and months of careful approach had led to this singular moment. Krila's first words came through the translator with a clinical precision that sent a slight chill down Emma's spine. "We require detailed information about human biological configuration and reproductive mechanisms," the alien stated, its voice a strange blend of musical tones and mechanical precision. A collective murmur rippled through the human delegation. Emma saw Colonel Marcus Thompson's hand instinctively move towards his communicator, ready to abort the mission at the slightest hint of threat. Dr. Helen Chen, the station's chief medical officer, looked like she was simultaneously fascinated and deeply uncomfortable. Emma stepped forward, her years of training kicking in. She knew that communication was about more than just words. It was about context, nuance, and understanding. "Welcome to the Horizon Space Station," she said, keeping her voice steady and her body language open. "We are pleased to meet you and hope to establish a meaningful dialogue." Krila tilted its entire body. Emma couldn't quite call it a head, to one side. The iridescent membranes rippled with what might have been curiosity or confusion. "Dialogue requires information exchange. We seek comprehensive understanding of human physical structure." The request was so direct, so devoid of the social niceties humans were accustomed to, that several diplomats shifted uncomfortably. Emma recognized this as an opportunity rather than a threat. "Understanding takes time," she responded carefully. "We would like to learn about you as well. Perhaps we could begin with less personal topics." But Krila seemed uninterested in diplomatic delicacy. Another series of clicks emerged, followed by the translator's clinical voice. "Biological information is fundamental to communication. Explain your physical configuration." Colonel Thompson was now visibly tense, his hand hovering near a security alarm. Dr. Chen looked like she was simultaneously preparing a scientific presentation and wondering how to explain human anatomy without causing an interstellar incident. Emma realized that this was going to be the most challenging diplomatic mission in human history. The Zoraki weren't just alien in appearance. Their entire concept of communication and interaction was fundamentally different from anything humanity had ever encountered, and she was going to have to find a way to bridge that impossible gap. The tension in the diplomatic chamber grew thicker with each passing moment. Emma could feel the nervous energy radiating from her human colleagues, a sharp contrast to the alien delegation's unsettling calm. Colonel Thompson's fingers twitched near the emergency communication panel, ready to sound an alert at the slightest provocation. Dr. Helen Chen stepped forward, her scientific curiosity barely concealing her discomfort. Perhaps, she began, her voice carefully measured, we could discuss the purpose of your visit to our space station. Creela's response came immediately, accompanied by a series of color shifts across its iridescent membrane. Purpose is information gathering. Biological comprehension is primary objective. The translator's clinical tone made the alien's words sound even more invasive. Emma watched as several diplomats exchanged worried glances. The Zoraki's concept of communication was so fundamentally different from human interaction that it seemed almost threatening. We do not understand your social boundaries, Creela continued, the translator rendering its clicks and melodic tones into something approximating human speech. Biological information is knowledge. Knowledge is communication. Emma recognized the critical moment developing. This was more than a simple misunderstanding. It was a complete breakdown of communicative concepts. The Zoraki seemed to view personal information as a form of currency, something to be freely exchanged without the emotional and social considerations humans held sacred. Colonel Thompson couldn't contain himself any longer. This is unacceptable, he muttered, his hand now firmly on the communication device. We're not here to be dissected. But Emma raised her hand slightly, a gesture that had become a signal to her team. She understood something the others didn't. This was not a threat, but a profound difference in understanding. The Zoraki reproduction and social structure, as explained in the classified briefings Emma had studied, was entirely scientific. They reproduced through a complex genetic exchange that was more akin to data transfer than any biological process humans would recognize. Concepts of privacy, intimacy, and personal boundaries simply did not exist in their culture. We need to establish a communication protocol, Emma said softly to Dr. Chen, who was still staring at the alien delegation. They're not trying to be hostile. They genuinely don't understand. As if to prove her point, Creela tilted its body, a gesture that might have been equivalent to a curious head tilt. Your resistance to information sharing is confusing. In our society, knowledge is the highest form of interaction. The room remained silent. Emma could see the mix of fear, confusion, and growing frustration on her colleagues' faces. The Zoraki delegation stood motionless, their shimmering membranes pulsing with what might have been curiosity or confusion. Dr. Chen leaned closer to Emma, whispering, "How are we supposed to negotiate with a species that doesn't understand the concept of personal space?" Emma's mind raced. This was why she had been chosen for this mission. Her expertise in xenolinguistics wasn't just about translating words. It was about bridging entire conceptual frameworks. We need a new approach, she muttered, more to herself than to anyone else. Creela continued its relentless pursuit of information. Explain your physical reproduction mechanism. We require comprehensive data for our research. Colonel Thompson was about to interrupt, but Emma subtly shook her head. She recognized this as a critical moment, a chance to either escalate the conflict or find a breakthrough. The Horizon space station, usually a marvel of human engineering and diplomatic achievement, now felt like a pressure cooker of interspecies tension. Humanity's first meaningful contact with an advanced alien civilization was rapidly becoming a potential diplomatic disaster. And Emma Rodriguez was the only one who seemed to understand that this wasn't a confrontation. It was a profound moment of miscommunication. Emma knew she needed a breakthrough. The diplomatic chamber had become a battlefield of miscommunication, with the Zoraki's relentless pursuit of biological information creating an unbearable tension. She approached a nearby holographic display, her mind racing with possibilities. Perhaps we can demonstrate communication differently, she said, her voice calm but firm. The holographic system came to life, displaying a series of intricate cultural interactions. Emma began to construct a visual representation of human social communication, not just as an exchange of information, but as a complex dance of context, emotion, and unspoken understanding. Creela's membrane shifted colors rapidly, a sign of intense processing. The alien diplomat moved closer to the display, its three arms extending slightly in a gesture of curiosity. "Observe," Emma said, How humans communicate is not just about raw data. A hologram showed a series of scenarios: a family gathering, where subtle glances and gentle touches conveyed more meaning than words; a workplace meeting, where body language and tone carried important, nuanced messages; a group of friends sharing a meal, their conversation a complex web of indirect communication and emotional sharing. Dr. Chen watched in fascination. Colonel Thompson remained tense, his hand still close to the emergency communication system. The Zoraki delegation seemed confused. Their translator worked overtime, attempting to process the layers of communication Emma was demonstrating. "Your information transfer is inefficient," Creela commented. "Why not simply state direct intentions?" Emma smiled. This was the moment she had been waiting for. Because humans value more than just information. We value connection, emotion, context. She pulled up another holographic display, this time showing how a simple phrase like "I'm fine" could mean completely different things depending on tone, facial expression, and surrounding circumstances. A sad "I'm fine" spoken with a trembling voice was worlds apart from a confident "I'm fine" accompanied by a strong smile. The Zoraki's membrane began to pulse with a rhythmic pattern, the closest thing to confusion they could display. "Inefficient," Creela repeated, but with less certainty. Dr. Helen Chen stepped forward. "Our complexity is our strength," she explained. "We process information through multiple channels: emotional, contextual, historical." The holographic displays continued to cycle through human interactions. Moments of joy, sadness, negotiation, conflict. Each scenario showing layers of communication far beyond simple data transfer. Creela's three arms moved in a synchronized motion that might have been their version of deep thought. The diplomatic chamber fell silent, with everyone watching the alien's reaction. "Your communication method requires significant cognitive processing," the alien finally stated. "It appears inefficient, but potentially complex." Emma recognized this as a breakthrough. The Zoraki were beginning to see human communication as something more than a simple data exchange. They were starting to understand, or at least acknowledge, the complexity of human interaction. Colonel Thompson leaned closer to Emma. "Are you actually getting through to them?" he whispered. "Watch," Emma responded, her eyes never leaving the Zoraki delegation. The holographic display shifted to show a final scene: a group of people working together to solve a complex problem. Not through direct instruction, but through collaboration, intuition, and unspoken understanding. Creela's membrane began to shift in a way none of the humans had seen before. It was almost like the alien was trying to mimic the complexity of the human interactions they were witnessing. "Fascinating," the alien finally said. "Extremely inefficient, but fascinating." For the first time since the encounter began, Emma allowed herself a small smile. They were making progress. The first step in understanding was always recognizing that another perspective existed. The diplomatic chamber hummed with a new kind of energy. Emma Rodriguez stood at the center, her breakthrough with the Zoraki delegation, creating a tension that was both uncomfortable and promising. Colonel Thompson watched her carefully, his military instincts still on high alert. Creela moved in a way that suggested deep processing. The alien's iridescent membrane rippled with complex color patterns that Dr. Helen Chen frantically tried to document. "We require further analysis of your communication methodology," the alien stated, its translator rendering the words with clinical precision. Emma recognized this as a critical moment. The Zoraki weren't just asking questions anymore. They were showing genuine scientific interest. "We can demonstrate more," she responded, carefully selecting her words. "But understanding requires patience and mutual respect." The holographic displays continued to cycle, showing increasingly complex human interactions. Moments of negotiation, conflict resolution, and collaborative problem-solving played out in vivid detail. Each scene revealed another layer of human social intelligence that seemed to both fascinate and confuse the alien delegation. Dr. Chen leaned closer to Emma. "They're actually paying attention," she whispered. "I never thought we'd get this far." Colonel Thompson remained skeptical. His hand still hovered near the emergency communication system, years of military training making him cautious of the alien presence. But even he couldn't deny the subtle shift in the room's atmosphere. Creela's three arms moved in a synchronized motion that might have been their equivalent of deep contemplation. "Your information transfer system is remarkably inefficient," the alien repeated, but with less certainty than before. "Yet it appears to contain significant adaptive potential." Emma smiled. This was progress. Subtle, but meaningful. The Zaraki were beginning to see humans as more than just another species to catalog. They were recognizing the unique complexity of human communication. The holographic display shifted to show a series of human problem-solving scenarios. A medical team working together to save a patient. Engineers collaborating on a complex technological challenge. Diplomats negotiating a peaceful resolution to a potential conflict. "Observe," Emma explained, "how humans achieve complex outcomes through collaborative communication." The Zaraki delegation huddled closer to the display, their membrane pulsing with what seemed like intense curiosity. Their scientific mindset, which had initially seemed so rigid, was now showing signs of genuine intellectual flexibility. Dr. Chen couldn't contain her excitement. "They're learning," she said softly. "Actually learning." Colonel Thompson remained unconvinced. "Learning doesn't mean understanding," he muttered, but his grip on the emergency communication device had relaxed slightly. Creela turned its entire body towards Emma. "We require a comprehensive data transfer to fully analyze your communication methodology," the alien stated. But there was something different in the translator's tone, a hint of respect that hadn't been there before. Emma recognized the breakthrough for what it was. This wasn't just a diplomatic encounter anymore. This was the beginning of something much larger, a potential bridge between two fundamentally different ways of understanding the universe. "Communication is a two-way process," she responded carefully. "What can you share about your own method of information exchange?" The diplomatic chamber fell silent. The human delegation held their collective breath. The Zaraki delegation's membrane began to pulse with a complex rhythm that might have been their version of excitement. For the first time since the encounter began, it felt like genuine communication might be possible. Creela's response came slowly, carefully. "We are prepared to initiate a mutual information exchange protocol." Colonel Thompson looked like he might object, but Emma's slight hand gesture stopped him. They were on the edge of something unprecedented, the first true moment of understanding between humans and an alien civilization. The Horizon space station, once a potential battleground of misunderstanding, now hummed with the possibility of something extraordinary. The Horizon space station's research wing buzzed with unprecedented activity. Dr. Emma Rodriguez found herself in a sealed conference room with the Zaraki scientific delegation, surrounded by an array of holographic displays and complex communication interfaces. What had started as a tense diplomatic encounter was now transforming into something entirely unexpected. Creela and two other Zaraki scientists moved with a precision that was both mechanical and organic. Their iridescent membranes shifted colors rapidly, indicating intense cognitive processing. Emma watched carefully, recognizing that every moment was a delicate dance of cross-species communication. "We wish to understand the adaptive potential of your communication method," Creela stated, its translator rendering the words with clinical accuracy. Dr. Helen Chen, who had been brought in as a medical expert, leaned forward. "Our communication is about more than just information transfer," she explained. "It's about problem-solving, emotional intelligence, and collaborative thinking." To demonstrate, Emma initiated a complex holographic simulation. It showed a series of human problem-solving scenarios, from medical emergencies to engineering challenges. Each scenario highlighted how humans approached complex problems through intuitive, collaborative communication. The Zaraki scientists observed intently. Their three-armed bodies moved in synchronized patterns, processing the information in ways humans could barely comprehend. Inefficient, one of the other Zaraki scientists commented, yet adaptable. Colonel Thompson, who had been reluctantly observing from a secure communication station, couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and anxiety. Humans were being studied like a new scientific specimen, but they were holding their ground. Emma recognized this as a critical moment. The Zaraki weren't just collecting data, they were genuinely trying to understand. Their scientific approach, which had initially seemed cold and invasive, was now revealing the deeper curiosity. The holographic display shifted, showing how human teams solved problems through intuition, emotional understanding, and collaborative thinking. A medical team saving a patient's life, engineers developing a breakthrough technology, diplomats negotiating a complex international conflict. Observe the nonlinear problem solving. Emma explained. Humans do not simply process information. We interpret, we adapt, we create. Creela's membrane pulsed with an intense color pattern. The alien leaned closer to the display, its 3 arms moving in a way that suggested deep contemplation. Your species develops solutions through collective cognitive processes, the alien finally stated, not through direct instruction or predetermined algorithms. Dr. Chen nodded. Exactly. Our strength is our ability to think beyond prescribed methods. The research wing fell silent. The human and Zaraki scientists observed each other, 2 species attempting to understand a fundamentally different approach to intelligence and problem-solving. Colonel Thompson's communication device buzzed softly. He stepped away, speaking in hushed tones with the Earth-based command center. The diplomatic implications of this encounter were enormous. We require more data, Creela stated, but the words no longer sounded like a demand. They sounded like a genuine scientific inquiry. Emma recognized the subtle shift. The Zaraki were no longer seeing humans as a species to be cataloged. They were seeing them as a complex, fascinating subject of scientific study. The holographic displays continued to cycle through human interactions. Moments of creativity, emotional intelligence, and collaborative thinking played out in vivid detail. Each scene revealed another layer of human potential that seemed to both fascinate and challenge the alien scientists. Remarkable, one of the other Zaraki scientists mumbled, its translator rendering the word with a hint of what might have been respect. As the research session continued, the initial tension began to dissolve. What had started as a potentially disastrous first contact was transforming into something unprecedented, a genuine scientific and cultural exchange. The Horizon space station hummed with possibility. Humanity was being studied, but in doing so, they were also teaching an advanced alien civilization something entirely new about intelligence, communication, and potential. The research wing of the Horizon space station had transformed into something entirely unexpected. What began as a tense first contact had evolved into a complex scientific exploration of human potential. Emma Rodriguez stood at the center of this unprecedented encounter, watching as the Zaraki scientists continued their intense study. Creela moved closer to the holographic displays, its 3-armed body shifting with an intensity that suggested deep cognitive processing. Your species demonstrates adaptive intelligence beyond our initial computational models, the alien stated, its translator rendering the words with a mix of scientific curiosity and growing respect. Dr. Helen Chen couldn't contain her excitement. We're more than just a collection of biological data, she explained, her voice carrying a passion that seemed to intrigue the alien observers. Humans have the ability to innovate, to create solutions that defy traditional logic. The holographic displays continued to cycle through various human achievements. From medical breakthroughs to technological innovations, each scene revealed the depth of human creativity. A montage of problem-solving scenarios played out. Engineers designing impossible structures, medical teams developing revolutionary treatments, diplomats negotiating complex international conflicts. Colonel Thompson watched carefully from the communication station. His military background made him cautious, but he couldn't deny the impressive display of human capabilities. The initial fear of first contact had transformed into something far more nuanced. Observe, Emma said, selecting a particularly complex scenario. The display showed a team of researchers working on a seemingly impossible medical challenge. They didn't just follow established protocols. They adapted, they questioned, they collaborated in ways that defied linear thinking. The Zaraki scientists huddled closer. Their iridescent membranes pulsed with colors that suggested intense cognitive processing. Non-linear problem-solving, one of them muttered, its translator rendering the words with a hint of what might have been admiration. Creela turned its entire body towards Emma. Your communication method is a form of collective intelligence we have not previously encountered, the alien stated. It challenges our existing understanding of information exchange. The research wing fell silent. Humans and Zaraki stood separated by species, culture, and fundamental understanding, yet connected by a growing mutual respect. Dr. Chen pulled up another display, this time showing human emotional intelligence. Scenes of complex social interactions played out, moments of empathy, conflict resolution, collaborative decision-making. Each scenario demonstrated how humans processed information through emotional and contextual understanding. We do not simply transfer data, she explained. We interpret, we feel, we adapt. The Zaraki scientists moved in synchronized patterns, their three-armed bodies reflecting a deep state of contemplation. Colonel Thompson watched carefully, his hand still close to the communication system, but his posture had relaxed. Inefficient, one of the Zaraki scientists repeated, a phrase that had become almost a running joke, yet remarkably effective. Emma recognized the breakthrough for what it was. The Zaraki were no longer seeing humans as a species to be cataloged. They were seeing them as a complex, fascinating subject of scientific study. The holographic displays continued to cycle. Moments of human creativity, emotional intelligence, and collaborative thinking played out in vivid detail. Each scene revealed another layer of human potential that seemed to both fascinate and challenge the alien scientists. We require further data collection, Creela stated, but the words no longer sounded like a cold scientific demand. They sounded like a genuine request for understanding. As the research session continued, the initial tension had completely dissolved. What had started as a potentially disastrous first contact was now a genuine scientific and cultural exchange. The Horizon space station hummed with possibility. Humanity was being studied, but in doing so, they were also teaching an advanced alien civilization something entirely new about intelligence, communication, and potential. The universe, it seemed, was far more complex than anyone had imagined. News of the extraordinary encounter spread quickly across Earth and beyond. The Horizon space station had become the epicenter of humanity's most significant first contact experience. Emma Rodriguez found herself at the heart of a global phenomenon that was reshaping humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The diplomatic communication channels buzzed with activity. World leaders, scientific institutions, and media outlets were desperate for information about the Zaraki encounter. Colonel Thompson stood before a global communication panel, carefully selecting his words as he briefed international representatives. The Zaraki are not just studying us, he explained, his military precision mixed with a hint of wonder. They're learning from us in ways we never anticipated. Dr. Helen Chen had been working around the clock, documenting every moment of the incredible scientific exchange. Her research notes revealed something profound. The Zaraki were fundamentally changing their understanding of intelligent communication because of their interactions with humans. In the research wing, Creela and the other Zaraki scientists continued their intense study. Their iridescent membranes pulsed with complex color patterns that suggested deep cognitive processing. Emma watched carefully, recognizing that each moment was a delicate dance of cross-species understanding. Your species challenges our existing computational models, Creela stated, its translator rendering the words with a mix of scientific curiosity and growing respect. Adaptive intelligence beyond our previous comprehension. The holographic displays continued to cycle through human achievements, medical breakthroughs, technological innovations, diplomatic resolutions. Each scenario demonstrated the unique human capacity for creative problem-solving. The Zoraki scientists observed with an intensity that suggested they were rewriting their entire understanding of intelligent life. Global reactions varied. Some viewed the encounter with hope, others with fear. Military strategists analyzed every detail. Scientific communities celebrated the unprecedented opportunity for learning. The media struggled to comprehend the full implications of this first contact. Emma recognized the historical significance of the moment. Humanity was no longer just a small species on a distant planet. They were becoming something more. A civilization capable of challenging the understanding of an advanced alien species. Dr. Chen pulled up another display, this time showing the depth of human emotional intelligence. Scenes of empathy, collaboration, and complex social interactions played out. The Zoraki scientists leaned closer, their three-armed bodies moving in synchronized patterns of intense observation. "We do not simply process information," Emma explained. "We feel, we adapt, we create." Colonel Thompson watched from the communication station, his initial skepticism replaced by a growing sense of pride. The military man had become an unexpected witness to humanity's most significant moment of cosmic recognition. The Zoraki delegation's communication became increasingly complex. They began requesting more detailed information about human social structures, problem-solving methods, and collaborative technologies. What had started as an invasive data-gathering mission had transformed into a genuine cultural exchange. "Your species represents a form of intelligence we have not previously encountered," one of the Zoraki scientists commented. The translator rendered the words with what seemed like a hint of respect. Global communication networks lit up with discussions, theories, and speculations. Humanity was being studied, but in doing so, they were teaching an advanced alien civilization, something entirely new about intelligence, communication, and potential. The Horizon space station hummed with possibility. Outside its windows, the vast darkness of space seemed to hold new promise, new potential. The universe suddenly felt smaller, yet infinitely more complex. Emma Rodriguez stood at the center of this unprecedented moment. She understood that this was more than just a scientific encounter. This was humanity's introduction to a larger cosmic community, a moment that would be remembered for generations to come. The initial misunderstanding had become a bridge of understanding. Humanity had not just survived first contact. They had thrived, challenged, and expanded the very concept of intelligent communication. 6 months after the initial encounter, the Horizon space station had become humanity's most important diplomatic outpost. Emma Rodriguez stood at the center of a transformation that was reshaping humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The Zoraki delegation had evolved from cautious observers to eager collaborators. What had begun as a tense first contact had transformed into the most significant scientific and cultural exchange in human history. Krila, once a rigid collector of biological data, now moved with a fluidity that suggested a profound understanding of human complexity. "Your species continues to challenge our computational models," Krila stated during a joint research session. The translator rendered the words with a nuance that suggested something close to respect, perhaps even admiration. Dr. Helen Chen and the research team had documented everything. Humanity's unique approach to problem-solving, communication, and emotional intelligence had become a subject of intense study for the Zoraki. The aliens were no longer simply collecting data. They were learning, adapting, growing. Colonel Thompson, who had initially been the most skeptical, now led a new type of diplomatic court. The military strategist had become an unexpected bridge between human and Zoraki understanding. His reports suggested that the aliens were requesting human expertise in areas they had never previously considered: conflict resolution, creative problem-solving, emotional intelligence. The holographic displays in the research wing told a story of unprecedented collaboration. Scenes of joint problem-solving played out, human and Zoraki scientists working together in ways that defied traditional scientific approaches. They were creating solutions that neither species could have developed alone. Global reactions had transformed dramatically. What had once been fear and uncertainty had become excitement and hope. Educational institutions were developing new programs to explore interspecies communication. Scientific communities celebrated the unprecedented opportunity for learning. Emma watched as a new generation of diplomats and scientists trained in this revolutionary approach to cosmic communication. The initial misunderstanding had become a blueprint for future interstellar interactions. "We require human perspective," Creela told the assembled researchers. The words no longer sounded like a demand, but like a genuine request for collaboration. The Zaraki had begun requesting human representatives for their diplomatic missions to other potential intelligent species. Humanity's unique ability to communicate, to empathize, to solve problems creatively had become their most valuable cosmic currency. Dr. Chen pulled up a final display showing the progression of their relationship. From the initial tense encounter to the current collaborative environment, the transformation was remarkable. The Zoraki's rigid scientific approach had been softened by human complexity. Colonel Thompson approached Emma, his usual military stoicism replaced by a sense of wonder. "We've done something unprecedented," he said quietly. "We've shown the universe what it means to be human." The Horizon space station hummed with possibility. Outside its windows, the vast darkness of space seemed to hold new promise. Humanity was no longer just a small species on a distant planet. They had become something more. A civilization capable of challenging and expanding the very concept of intelligent communication. Creela moved closer to Emma, its three-armed body now moving with a fluidity that suggested deep understanding. "We continue to learn," the alien stated. The translator rendered the words with a complexity that suggested genuine respect. The initial miscommunication had become a bridge of understanding. Humanity had not just survived first contact. They had thrived, challenged, and expanded the very concept of intelligent life in the universe. As the research session concluded, Emma Rodriguez understood that this was more than just a scientific encounter. This was humanity's true introduction to a larger cosmic community, a moment that would be remembered for generations to come. The universe, it seemed, was ready to learn about humans.